dispute that is ongoing and is at the International Court of Justice at The Hague. Remember last week also we began this particular studies, but we want to get granular this morning and see where is it headed to and what does it portend for Kenya and Somalia so far. Now they've not allowed even the delegates to really come into the country and attend the first UN Habitat Assembly at Gigiri Complex, which is ongoing until the 31st. This just showcases how this matter is serious and needs to be addressed. So we have the scholars here this morning, and we want to hear from them as far as this is concerned. If you're joining us this morning, I just want also to just let you know that yes, we have with us Professor Peter Kagwanja, who is the Chief Executive of Africa Policy Institute, also a visiting scholar, Institute of Diplomacy and International Studies, University of Nairobi. Also, he's a former government advisor to President Mwai Kibaki, that is in the year 2008 and 2013 as well. We have Professor Naomi Damba, who is a Vice Chancellor of KCA University and also is an expert on defense and foreign policy. Also, we have with us Dr. Mustafa Yusuf Ali, who is a conflict and resolution and national security expert as well. We have with us as well Abdiwab Sheikh Abdi, who is a commentator on African affairs. Also, is a director and a senior consultant at that is. Remind me the consultancy again. Southlink Consultancy. Thank you very much. And also, Dr. Warunga Simiyu, you know him very well. He is Director of East African Institute of Security Studies. We continue with the conversation pace. Now we have Dr. Mustafa, who's at the other side of the studio with a flip chart or a flipboard. He wants actually to take us through this particular railway. It began, especially Kismayo and the maritime border. We shall also be showing you some of the graphics from our touchscreen as well. And we just get our minds together with our panelists as well. You can pepper Dr. Mustafa with questions as well. Professor Kagwanja, Dr. Abdi, also Professor Naomi Damba, and Dr. Werunga as well. So over to you.
Thank you,
Dr. Mustafa.
Thank you, Dibal. Sometimes we stand before classrooms and lecture, but not in this manner. I'm hoping that the questions will not be coming from the co-panelists, but they'll be contributing to this discussion that we've actually been having. First of all, it's a pity that we are engaging in this kind of conflict with Somalia. It shouldn't really be the case. This problem was resolved long time ago, Dibal, and just for the avoidance of doubt, when we are talking about this particular maritime dispute, we are looking at a place here in the Indian Ocean. And I know many Kenyans might say, what is just waters? That we do not need that. But in the age of the blue economy, what is here, Dibal? Kenya has a lot at stake here. It's not just about the oil wealth, actually. It is about many other kinds of resources that are on these waters, including minerals, fish resources, and basically the trading routes. I know there was one person who said that if Kenya loses this particular chunk of waters, Kenya becomes landlocked. And I want to demonstrate to you how Kenya is not going to become landlocked in the classical sense of a landlocked country like Uganda. No. If you look at, and let me use the green line there, that is the line that should be signifying peace, I hope. And that is how Kenya wants the border to go. And the standard practice is that all maritime borders on this coast actually goes parallel to the east. And so the claim for Somalia in this case is neither here nor there. Somalia wants to have this line to go like that. Now, we have another border here. So Pemba is down here, and this comes a little bit up, and it goes like that. So what you have is you have the baseline, you have the internal waters, then you have the 12 miles that's part of Kenya's territory. Then you have the 200 miles of EEZ, that's the economic exclusive zone that Kenya has a right to prospect. And then you also have the continental shelf that is 350 nautical miles that is on the outer limit here. Now, and the reason why we have the continental shelf here, and that also becomes part of Kenya can prospect in there, is that over the centuries, millions of years, with the rivers coming from here, when it rains, the sediments from Kenya have actually been deposited into the sea. And it goes all the way 350 plus nautical miles. Now, if you look at this area here, and this is where we are saying that Kenya becomes landlocked, not in the classical sense of lacking the waters. If this waters is given to Somalia, then any ship that is coming to the port of Mombasa will have to pass through Somalia waters and will need to seek permission from Somalia and Tanzania to actually get into the country. And this is part of the problem, Dibal, and that's why Kenya has to fight very vigorously to actually have this particular waters come into it. If we go back to history and we look at the maps that we had before, and if it's possible to have that map on the screen, but if not, then we can use this. This is Jubaland.
Which particular map?
That one, the one that you have there.
Okay.
This is Jubaland. This used to be part of Kenya pre-1924, and after the Anglo-Italian treaty, what happened is that the Germans and the Ottoman were losing the war, and at that time the Italians were on the side of the Germans, and Britain, France, they had won the war, and to compensate Italy for actually leaving that axis, the losing axis, Kenya or Britain gave this part of the land to Italian.
All right. So
Kismayo used to be part of Kenya.
Okay.
All and right. Today, if you go to Kismayo, you'll actually find many fishermen there speaking Kiswahili. The language there actually is Kiswahili. But come 1963, or rather 1924, the Anglo-Italian treaty, Britain decided that this Jubaland should be part of Somalia for their own arrangement. In 1963, Kenya got independence, and many other African countries were gaining independence around that time. In the wisdom of the African Union, they decided that we should retain the colonial borders as they were. And the wisdom behind that was to avoid skirmishes, to avoid, so many wars that were going to be fought on account of borders. And Kenya agreed to have that. And at that time, this border was actually delineated. 1958 all the way to 1979 with the United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Sea, UNCLOS 1, 2, and 3 came into being. This is the time the international community was grappling with how to actually deal with the oceans before people or countries or states go in and fight over sea resources. And in 1979, the Presidential Proclamation number 1,
yes,
by at that time it was Daniel Arap Moi, proclaimed that the Kenya's border runs parallel. And this was done again in 2005. Professor Kaganjo, you are the advisor in President Kibaki's government at that time. Another presidential proclamation was issued proclaiming that Kenya's border runs parallel to the east. In 2009, of course, we started having issues. Somalia took Kenya to the ICJ, and that is where we are today. Dibal, what is here? There are two mountains here, actually, yes, in the sea. And what Somalia, if we can have another, there's another
map there?
Map that shows the oil blocks.
The oil blocks, I'm trying to sort it out.
But if you don't, it's okay, I'll explain. The gradient, based on the seismic surveys, and here is the problem, based on the seismic surveys that have been carried out, the gradient of this place is actually going down towards Kenya. And since there is oil resources here, all the way, if Kenya is going to drill, Somalia fears that because the gradient is going towards Kenya, that the oil will just be flowing towards Kenya. In the same manner that, the gradient in Iraq, Kuwait was actually. And this is why actually Iraq went to war in Kuwait, because the gradient there, Kuwait was, oil resource is actually lower than Iraq. So when it's drilling, Oil is just seeping through from Iraq and going there. This is part of the problem, Dibal. In terms of the diplomatic tiff that has been created, I actually saw a Somalia minister at the UN Habitat meeting the other day. I attended one of the sessions, so I'm not too sure about this. It's up there in the media, but also, you know, some of the diplomats have been taken back. But some are here actually attending the meeting. I met one when I attended the UN Habitat. And these are unnecessary. We shouldn't really be going in that direction, because if we do, then this is going to be a problem. Somalia, Kenya does not even at the moment do not have the wherewithal to actually prospect for this. It will take time.
All right.
And the amount of resources that are going to be expended in this conflict is enormous. What is the solution? Come back to the negotiating table. Somalia and Kenya should address this issue bilaterally through a negotiation. Going to the ICJ is going to complicate this issue, because that, whatever decision is going to be issued by ICJ, I'm not too sure that either Somalia or Kenya is going to abide by whatever decision is going to be, a verdict is going to be given by ICJ, as we have seen in many other cases where such kind of decisions are just shunted aside.
Okay. All right, maybe I should just also just put it to the panel. They can actually pepper you with some questions if they have, or suggestions or contributions so far on this development.
Okay.
Abdi,
Let me just clarify a few issues. I wish you have a Somali map, if you have on the
Somali
screen,
map
on the screen.
Okay.
Is
Just proceed.
okay. Anyway, let me proceed. Let me
yeah,
proceed.
as I'm trying to get the Somali map.
Dr. Mustafa,
Does this help?
you know,
This is entire.
Well, that's a very old map. That will not help Abdul Wahab, because that's the map pre-1924 when Jubaland was part of Kenya.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you about Dr. Mustafa. You know, Somalia has a longest coastline in Africa.
That's right.
London Conference, what Somalia they are doing, what do you call, they are not auctioning any blocks. There's a 202 blocks. But it was a data assessment and data sharing. From Hobyo to Kismayu, it's a 56 blocks. Out of the 56 blocks, only 3 blocks are in dispute with Kenya. The rest, they are not in dispute. The other issue is, according to assessment we have, data we have, factual data we have, some of them they carry out during the Siad Barre regime, the military regime, way back early 1980s. Some of them is early 1960s. Each block can generate 1 million barrels per day. Each block, out of 56 blocks. 56 blocks, each one can generate 1 billion barrels per day, which means Somalia can generate $24 billion per year. Apart from that, for instance, if they succeeded, for instance, awarding a contract to all of the blocks, which means, for instance, the block close to Kismayu became what they call a petroleum city. Petroleum city, whereby they can easily develop the universities, what they call a lot of things, a lot of activity will be there. Somalia will get each block, for instance, if they awarded those companies, they have to pay what they call corporate taxes. Put together, they will get a $40 billion per year, which means that's budget of America for 4 years. But unfortunately, the Gulf states, together some other countries, they don't want right now, to explore such kind of things because of Somalia. They don't want to officially become member of the OPEC member. That's one issue. That's why they are creating a tension among the neighboring states. The Arab states, they are creating this tension between Somalis and the neighbor and Kenya. Specifically, I have a lot of evidence about these issues. What the area in dispute, Capital Ringo, is only 100 kilometers square.
No, it's true. It's true.
100 kilometers square. It's only 3 blocks. That 3 blocks, Somalia and Kenya can come together and discuss the issue and resolve once and for all. Again, right now, the parliament, Somali parliament has passed, a motion of the Petroleum Act, which they are going to auction sooner, very soon. But the area in conflict, they are not even willing to auction it. They're not even to touch it until the Kenya and Somalia come together, resolve the issue once and for all.
So these are oil blocks 231, 232,
it's not bigger. It's not
234.
Yes.
I think 230.
4 oil blocks.
I think
230,
3 to 4.
234.
3 to 4.
Uh-huh.
But let me tell you one thing. The issue is not Somalia itself. The Kenyan concern is, even those who are in power today in Mogadishu, they have a dual nationalities. Farmajo is American citizen. What do you call the foreign minister is a Canadian. Prime minister is a Norwegian. So, issue is not Kenya and Somalia, Basi. These two communities are brothers and sisters. They live side by side for a long time. If the oil and gas can cause a problem, then we forget it. We don't want oil and gas. The regional stability and peace is more important than what they call oil and gas.
That's right.
That's one issue. Secondly, what I'm going to advise my brother, my government in Kenya, go into soft diplomacy. You know, sometimes we are exaggerating the entire things. Kenya will never be a landlocked. Take it from me. You can take it to the bank. Don't be a landlocked. That's what I can tell you. This problem, in fact, the media and some politicians are exaggerating it because for the personal gains. But the two communities, they have no problem. The level of integration between Somalis and Kenya is huge. In addition to, let me finish it with the ball. Very important point I'm raising it. The other issue is, if you look at the relationship between Somalia and Kenya, it's better than even the relationship between Kenya and Tanzania, Kenya and Uganda. The Mira traders can generate 1.3 billion per year. Somali traders can generate $4 billion per year. They, in fact, boost the economy of this country.
So, Dr. Abdul Wahab, what you're saying is that actually the problem is individuals in Mogadishu.
Individuals
it is not
and some Western
and Gulf countries.
And some Arab states and Western countries.
Right.
This is the problem, the point of contention. In addition to that, no question about that, Kenya has hosted one of the largest refugee population on earth, on Africa. Mainly, most of them are Somali origin. Kenya, they invested a lot in Somalia for the last 30 years. And Somali community across the board, from Ras Kambori, from Ras Asir, Somalis, they have sympathized with Kenyans.
Thank you.
That much I can tell you. So this issue, don't exaggerate the whole thing. I don't see the people.
Well, Doctor, thank you. But the challenge is there is a diplomatic tiff now ongoing, and the information on the table is that Somalia still claims that these oil blocks belong to them, and the case is in ICJ, and the case was actually afforded to ICJ before Farmajo came into power.
All right, thank you. Okay.
No.
We'll come back to you. We'll come back. Let's hear from Peter Kagwanja and Dr. Urunga. Peter, and also Professor Namidamba.
Two dates are very important in understanding this conflict.
Two dates?
Two dates.
Yes.
First date is 1979. Kenya issues its kind of policy document on its maritime territory. Somalia concurs. That's Siad Barre. He was the one who was ruling that time. And there is no dispute. 2009. 2005, there was a major, Kenya also issues other documents, and it's followed. You can have other dates. But for me, the two important ones are 1979 and 2009. 2009, Kenya and Somalia sit down, not because they wanted, but because the international jurisdiction wanted to harmonize the global waters, the control of the waters, set to a continental, and they put some deadlines. And Kenya and Somalia sat down and agreed that this is how we are going to do it. Before the year ended, a Somali is appointed president of the ICJ. And without warning, without anything, there was supposed to be a meeting in Mogadishu that never took place to finalize, and the MOU had already been signed and everything was done, and it was a done deal. The case went to the court. Now, obviously, Kenya and Somalia continued to talk, and the case went the way it did. But what we have seen in recent years, and what sparked this, is the fact that there is a direct threat to the Kenyan territory, because if you wish, a kind of a domino effect of the Somali case on the entire security of the Indian Ocean. Look at the negotiated boundary between Kenya and Tanzania, which never went to any court. Kenya yielded some land because if it insisted on a southeast line, then you would have part of Zanzibar, the whole of Pemba, and so on. And those are Tanzanian territories. Now, if Somalia insists on that and Kenya insists on these southern boundaries, then we will have the domino effect with Tanzania and Mozambique, because they also have to go that way, and then Mozambique and South Africa. So all the lines on the east coast of Africa, the Indian Ocean, ran parallel east from the point that the sea touches the land. Now, and that was the principle that was agreed with the Siad Barre. That was the principle that was agreed with Abdurahi, the president at the beginning, and then it shifted. Now, at the time it shifted, it is very psychological for Kenya, because it is the time we've been hosting the Somali government for almost 10 years within the country. And we're now securing Somalia, taking the government to Baidoa by stage, and then from Baidoa to Mogadishu, and financing most of those bills. We're also hosting 500,000+ refugees in Dadaab and Kakuma, and not to mention the well-to-do Somalis who are investing in our economy. We give them papers so that they are able to be productive. So one of the security people who talked to me asked me the question, and I didn't know how to answer it, and I think the Kenyans need to share my concerns. He asked me, if this patient is kicking at you when they are at ICU, what are they going to do when they are able to kick? Are you getting the metaphor?
Yes.
That when they are in the ICU, in terms of security condition, this is what they are doing. This is the kick they are inflicting on you. What kind of kicks are they going to inflict on you when they are healthy and walking?
Right.
So there are nationalist aspects here which we need to tone down.
Thank you. Right, let's hear from Dr. Wirunga.
Let me start with Professor Kagwanja. That story, that kicking. You see, before that, Somalia had the strongest army in this region.
Yes.
For many years. But Siad Barre still agreed on what they discussed with Kenya. So I think that metaphor, Prof, I'll not take it, because at that time, if Siad Barre wanted to do anything, he was going to Mogadishu, to Addis Ababa, until the Russians came in. So he had the ability to do what he wanted. But I think because he was a very Pan-Africanist in nature, he felt they are going to do that. My problem is this. You can talk these things until cows come home. If Kenya is at ICJ and you refuse to talk to Somalis from 2009 to 2014, that case will be determined in the court. Now, you mentioned about the judge who is a Somali. From what I've gathered, Kenya was given an option to pick an independent judge.
Yes.
So that this Somali will not be presiding over this case. I even got the name of the Muzungu judge. But Kenya, as usual, I think we are too bravado sometimes. So this Muzungu never took up the position. But as we speak, he is now a member of the bench. The same person Kenyans refused, because they were given an option. Yes, this one has personal interest because he's a Somali. Pick somebody you feel will be independent, we shall put this pen. And Kenya did not do it. So I think that sometimes, even as we blame Somali, from what I gather, this is a lost case. So we can talk, Professor, if it is going to be judged by the courts. This is a lost case. I think what we need to do, let's sit back and have Kenyans with some humility. Yes, we know Somalia is in the ICU, but it's a country. So I think, to me, even as we speak, and I've gathered a lot on this thing from the time we spoke last week and whatever, I'm told this is a lost case. So Kenya can say what it wants, but the moment we agree to go...
No, we need to question, why is it a lost case? Is it because we have a presiding president?
The evidence that is there, Kenya tried to tell the court that it had no jurisdiction. In the first place, you are telling a court that it has no jurisdiction. The court ruled against it and said, no, we have the powers to deal with this case. And let me give you two examples. We have the Bakassi Peninsula, Cameroon and Nigeria. Nigeria was behaving the way Kenya is behaving. We have the Cabinda enclave, Angola and DRC. DRC was behaving the way Kenya is behaving. Cabinda went to Angola, Bakassi went to Cameroon. So I think we have some presidencies here, and as a country, we need to sit back and ask ourselves, you know, we can beat the drums, but if we are not prosecuting this case properly, we are going to lose.
Okay, could we hear from Nomidama? We'll come to you briefly.
The point has been clearly and remunerated. We need people who are sober. We need to understand that Somalia and Kenya need to live together. Yeah. That Kenya and Somalia has people who can sit down and talk and solve this issue. Siad Barre was a military man, yeah, but he was wise enough to know that if he starts this war, it's going to be a ripple effect all along the East Coast and all along the African borders. And so leave it alone, mutual relationship, and let us conserve our energy and not start any war at all. And therefore, the diplomatic tic-tac that is happening, we need sober people.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
We need people with wisdom to manage a very sensitive situation.
Thank you, Nomidama. Dr. Abdi.
Let me just correct a few things.
Correct.
Yes, you cannot compare Farmajo to Siad Barre. Somalia today is a fragmented state. Farmajo is only controlling the Mogadishu area. If you look at Somaliland, they have a good relation with Kenya. Jubaland, they have a very good relation with Kenya as well. So Farmajo, he's not in control even in the entire country. So you cannot compare this guy to other guy. The other issue Dr. Mustafa raises, the map of 1924. It's still true, very true. Now, the map of 1924, in fact, Kismayo was part of British Kenyan colonial. But the same map, if you look at the same map from what do you call, Kisumu, and what do you call Bungoma, Kakamega, Naivasha, Nakuru was part of Uganda at that time. So that map will not help us at all. It will open another Pandora box with another neighbor we have. So that one, we cannot even raise it. The other issue I'm going to, in fact, mention here is this issue, the way the Prophet says, we need a sober people. We have to use our wisdom so that, I talked to some of the officials of Somali government. They are not far, in fact. They are not far. They are saying we have misunderstanding with our brother, with our Kenyan brothers. So what I'm saying is, unless we adopt a soft diplomacy, we cannot resolve this kind of things. It can easily even unite the Somali clans.
Right, thank you. Kagonja, then we wind up on it. Dr. Mustafa, I think you done, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, the discussion that we're having, just that map there that was shown on the screen there. No, we're not putting that map to justify what is going on. No, it's to provide a historical context. So that's not a point of argument actually on the case itself, because if we do that, then we are making the same mistake that Somalia is actually making, and many other countries that have made.
Okay.
I am familiar with the Somali politics in Mogadishu itself, and also very familiar with the Kenyan politics here. And what Dr. Ari is saying here is true, that there is willing to talk on both sides. But in Somalia, in Mogadishu specifically, they are hostage of nationalism, because somebody whipped this issue and it's made it that Somalia is losing its territory. And next year we have election in Somalia. So you commit political suicide if you go and open up.
Definitely.
Now, two, Kenya is not insisting that the case in court is illegal. That's not the point. They're saying it's not going to solve anything. Now, what they are saying is, can we, one, either postpone this case until the elections in Somalia and everything are done so that we can deal with it, or put it in court for 2 years so that we have internal negotiations, then we can register a kind of an understanding in court, because that is always around. You can negotiate. But when people start towing the bells that by September Kenya will see the Armageddon. That's not really what is the right thing.
Who was tolling this bell?
Yeah, that's what
There's an Armageddon coming.
Yes, because by September the hammer will fall. You see.
Who is tolling? Dr. Warunga is tolling the bell.
So it's all over social media.
Okay.
Sorry.
So so what we really need in this region,
Yeah.
and I can say this with confidence, it is the consensus in Mogadishu, and it is the consensus in Nairobi, is that we as two countries, as two neighbors who are so interlinked and so interpenetrated in terms of our socio and economic and political processes, can only sit down and talk. That's agreed. Nairobi is asking Mogadishu, irrespective of what you need to do,
Yes.
we need to put this case in shelf so that we can have time to negotiate soberly. When, particularly, if there is the election of Famajo and Prime Minister Haile, and they're in office comfortably, they can negotiate this case irrespective. And what he said is true, that there is no control over the whole Somalia, the kind of control Siad Barre enjoyed. And then, if you insist in that weakness, that you want to exploit that weakness to Kenya by basically allowing the court to make a decision that you cannot defend. For example, it is very clear that even if a ruling is made that this territory goes to Somalia, the Somalia cannot enforce that in the next 10 years or 20 years. But then you have put a very sour acid to a very raw situation. The solution here is basically that the court itself find it necessary to secure the security of the region, the peace and security of the region, and put this case on hold. I think that's the only thing. So that Kenya and Somalia can talk. Because the moment they go and pronounce themselves, then they will have what we have called Philippine versus China case.
Thank you.
The court ruled against China. Philippines cannot implement anything, and the court itself suffers kind of a dent because of that. So what has happened? Philippines and China have sat down to talk. As we speak, they are now talking. And China is investing in the Philippines because they are talking. What was the use of the court case?
Good question.
I think
That's a very good point.
I'm a Kenyan. I'm very patriotic, you know that. But I'm also a realist. I'm a realist in when they go wrong, I accept. But on this one, I think the problem might not be from Somalia. You see, Kenya for a long time it has stopped leveraging itself in this region. On many other issues, Migingo, Ilemi Triangle, Lake Rudolph, I think this is the biggest test Kenya is dealing with, and it's because of economic interests. And we also know, and we have friends, Prof, even if the government in Mogadishu is weak, but that is the internationally recognized government of Somalia. So we shall deal with a government that is recognized. Whether they have the capacity to enforce now, that is besides the point. At some point, if it is given, there'll be a point where they'll have to enforce that verdict. But what we are saying is this: I think as a patriotic Kenyan, yes, we know we need to deal with this, but I think Kenya has to approach it differently so that we achieve what we want to achieve.
Right, thank you. Just to read some of the tweets that we do have here. We have Black Album out now saying that once Kenya is done with Somalia's sideshows, we need our Migingo back, ASAP. No Kenyan should suffer at home in the hands of rogue foreign government. We have Joseph Ndungu saying, I think if Somalia won't withdraw, we should go ahead and claim Jubaland that Britain gave away. He also says that he's asking Dr. Mustafa, is there any law that restricts Kenya from making a claim to Jubaland?
Yes, there's a law.
And then also, we have Donald Rabala saying, I like the show today. I wish they could defend Migingo as vigorously by using those maps. This is what Donald Rabala is saying as well. And Samuel Arutu are saying, maps for boundaries are not drawn on straight lines. Boundary line can take any shape. So Kenya boundary going parallel as it appears is quite okay as long as it was drafted in pre-colonial time. I don't know what is really, so maybe you can leave it for you to decide for that and just respond to that as well. But I think we have rested this case. What is the way forward? One word. What is the way forward, Peter Kagwanja? One word.
Kenya and Somalia must negotiate. Courts, whether it's ICC or ICJ or any other court, don't solve problems between nations. Problems between nations are solved by nations themselves.
All right.
Kenya and Tanzania have solved their border problem in the Indian Ocean.
So we need to settle it out of court.
Out of court. Yeah.
Out of court. Thank you. Right. Thank you very much.